Hey there, I'm Scott Brown, a developer for the game Journey for the Crown, and this is my 11th devlog. On this devlog, I'm going to be going over the polishing stages that I did in this scene here. Now, polishing is one of those things that I thought was a little bit easier, and it is a lot of fun, but there are times where you're doing some pretty grindy tasks. So I always try to prepare myself with that and try and mix things up a bit, so I'm not just doing constantly grindy tasks. Now, speaking of grindy tasks, I wanted to redo some of the animations in this scene. And the first one I wanted to tackle was the abilities and the way that the animations and the particle effects were firing. Now, I originally had it designed where it was just a delay, so I'd used a float value and things would fire based off that. It's very unreliable, and it was very annoying when I was adding new abilities and sharing them amongst all these different enemies and characters. So what I decided to do was go right into the animations themselves and add in these trigger events here, which I believe they're just called events. Now, each one of those is like a sequenced timer that you can access in code. And I just plugged in this thing called casting trigger here, which you can see in the bottom right corner, and I'm just going through every one of these different abilities and putting that point exactly when I want my ability to fire. So if I was shooting a fireball, it would release the fireball and it would move towards its target. Now, this is a task that took almost an entire day to go through all the different characters and models that I had in the game, and even the enemies too. I had to go through each and every one because the system was going to get a complete overhaul in code and through each one of these animators. So once I did all that, I noticed that things are so much smoother in combat, and especially when you're introduced later on in the game when there's a lot more happening with abilities, it's going to make my life a lot easier, I think, too. Now, while I was working on all this animation stuff, I figured I'd update the running animation in my game because I had done it myself and I think it needed a little overhaul. So what I did is I actually got some free humanoid animations, which you can go and get yourself from Mixamo, which is an Adobe website that offers all these different animations, and there's tons. Now, unfortunately, my models were made quite a while ago, and all the armature and rigging was unfortunately not compatible with the Mixamo setup. But I was able to trace the model in Blender, and I was able to get a very close resemblance of that running animation, and I'm very happy with the result. Now, if any of you are curious, here's the old running animation, and you can see that the newer one's a little bit more polished than this now. Now, the next thing was really fun to work on was fixing up this orc base here. I'd made it about a few years ago, and it's got lots of props and the initial terrain and all that stuff's done, but it just lacked that little polished stage. So today I ended up going through here and adding a whole bunch of different fire pits, and I redid the fire pit that I had in there before. It was kind of just like this bonfire version. This one's a lot better. The fire looks cooler. It's a little bit more of a sloppy fire that you think orcs and goblins would make, not some nice little fire pit with rocks in a circle. So I ditched that stuff and I decided to go with this one. Now you really get that fiery look that goblins and orcs kind of have in their industrious empire. So that was what I was aiming for here. But I also needed to dim the lights a little bit and add some smoke. Now, you can see here I'm actually just using a particle layer. It's almost just a giant plane of fog and smoke that kind of goes over your characters, and it blinds you just a little bit. You know, you can still see things well enough, but it gives it that smoky atmosphere. Now, I also wanted to add some little banners and flags and that sort of stuff just to jazz it up a little bit, and I figured these guys would be scattered throughout this zone just to give it a little bit more feel. Now look at that view. That looks pretty cool. It's too bad you don't play the game this way, huh? Now, just having a little bird's eye view here, you can really see that it does look a little bit more menacing than it did before, and I'm happy with the look here. Now, a few final touches to this scene. I wanted to add some dark patches around the fire pits just to give it a look that it's seared the ground and it's been burning for a long time. So I just added a black texture to my terrain array, and I'm painting it underneath all the fire patches in this orc base. Now with the next task, if you see here, I've only got a health bar for enemies. I wanted to do the same thing for my characters as well. I found that I had a lot of problems with visibility in the game with the 3 health or vital bars that you see in the game. For instance, you'll see the mana bar, the stamina bar, and your health. With the enemies, I had traditionally done that too, so I decided to get rid of it. And now I'm thinking, just to keep things simple in the world, I'm going to do that. And you can still look at those vital bars, but you have to look at your taskbar. And the same thing goes for the enemies. So I decided to gut out those 2 bars there. Now I'm going to leave them there in the event that I wish to bring them back. Maybe I'll stylize them differently, like make them really skinny or something like that. But for now, I'm just going to hide them and reposition this health bar so that it fits appropriately with this single vital bar. Now, there are some things that are going to be left in place. I do want the hitbox for this UI to be the same size. So if you look here, you'll see that there is a contour, that white contour. There's actually a collider trigger as well on this object that when you click on it with your mouse, it actually acts as clicking on the character to interact. So when you're trying to attack something, you can either use the health bar to do that, or you can actually target the mesh model in the game. I added a few more things to this zone. One was this gate here. I wanted to make an interactable gate that would save after you've opened it, so it will remain open once you clicked on it. But I wanted to add some sound effects to it as it opened up, and I used timeline to achieve this effect. It's a very easy way to animate things, and all you got to do is enable it and it does all the work for you. It's pretty awesome. Now, I also noticed that I'm going to go fight this cage troll here who massively out-levels me, and I wasn't impressed with the way the dying menu was. It's very sudden. In fact, I think it kind of popped up immediately after I died, so I wanted to fix that and maybe make it taper in after you die. So you'll see here any second now, it just like popped up right in front of you. You kind of don't know what happened. You just served with the dying screen. The first thing I'm going to do is find myself a sound effect that plays when you see the menu. And then I'm going to piece together timeline to taper the image and text UIs so that they don't just pop up suddenly in your face. It's more of a tapered way. I'm just going to take this for a test drive. See how fast this cave troll can kill me. The timing of the attacks was a really good upgrade here. I'm liking that. Yeah, that sounds great. I might even delay the alpha fading in. Maybe add another second in there just to give you a bit more time to realize what's going on. Now, just taking a run through all the things that we've done. We've added new fire pits. I've redone some of the terrain, added some ash around the fire pits. We've also added some new sound effects, some fog, an interactable gate, and upgraded a ton of different things in terms of polish for our abilities, our running animation, and even our health bars and vitals were trimmed down. Now this concludes this devlog. I hope you enjoyed it. Thinking about polish, it's one of those things that I'll probably never be fully satisfied with everything I do in here, but I just have to settle. Sometimes you have to move on to your next task and just get on with things, you know? But as I glance at this scene here, I can see there's a couple things that need to be done. There's probably sound effects that are missing and that sort of stuff. So there's still some polish somewhere. There's always going to be. Now, for some of you that are new around here, go and head on over to Steam and wishlist my game. There's also a demo that you can go and play if you want to. It's a relatively bug-free demo. thanks to some of you guys that have already tried it out. I really have to thank all of my fans and all the people that have helped. The game's really improved a lot because of all your help. Now that's it for this devlog. I hope to see you guys in the next one. Thanks so much for tuning in, and please make sure to like and subscribe. It really goes a long way. Thanks so much.